What you're on the verge of discovering isn't mere speculation or a string of resentful tales. It's a methodical, evidence-based examination of the female psyche following the breakdown of a marriage. In the coming moments, you'll receive a vital insight. An insight crafted from overlooked historical records and contemporary statistics that exposes the eerie consistency in a wife's trajectory after departure. The advantage of this harsh wisdom isn't vengeance, but empowerment. The empowerment to grasp the hidden dynamics that demolished your reality, and the empowerment to avoid being caught off guard by them in the future. Prior to diving in, if you're truly committed to self-improvement, not the soothing deceptions, but the raw, unfiltered reality, then my ebook, The Black Book of Human Nature, will deliver genuine insight. It's a hands-on guide that dissects the hidden realities of human conduct, equipping you with the means to gain a profound comprehension of yourself and society. The link is pinned in the comments. Let's commence our analysis not with sentiment, but with a figure. Figure so detached, so analytical, it masks the storm of personal turmoil it embodies. That figure is 73, per a long-term study in the Journal of Health and Social Behavior. In the initial 18 months after divorce, 73% of women undergo what experts label a substantial and detrimental change in socioeconomic position. This isn't just a reduction in spending money. It's the dismantling of a whole lifestyle framework. The spacious residence turns into a tight flat. The elite education for the kids fades into oblivion. The routine food purchases evolve into a strategic survival calculation. This marks the initial stage of the breakdown, the outward disintegration that foreshadows the inward one. It's the most apparent, the simplest to quantify. And for numerous men observing from afar, it offers a momentary, acrid feeling of validation. Yet don't be deceived. This outward disintegration is only the catalyst for a much more intriguing and alarming mental progression. To grasp this, we need to journey back to an era when society's structure was ripped asunder and raw humanity was exposed. The devastating plague in London during 1665, while textbooks emphasize fatalities and financial ruin, the true narrative lies in the journals of survivors. Samuel Pepys, in his renowned diary, captures this with a stark, perceptive voice. He depicts a metropolis where societal norms weren't merely fractured, but obliterated. And amid this emptiness, he noted a specific pattern among females. Spouses of traders, craftsmen, and mariners, lost to the waves, suddenly found themselves adrift. Their provider, their lawful shield, their societal role evaporated instantly with their husband's passing. Pepys recounts women in a desperate, nearly primal rush for fresh male guardianship. It wasn't solely for endurance, but for restoring a disrupted order of necessities. He portrays one female, the spouse of a freshly departed vessel commander, who within days of his demise was spotted alongside a prosperous yet infamously dishonest municipal authority. The locals murmured, they condemned. But Pepys, the consummate realist, comprehended. He noted beneath the grave's gloom every moral turns into barter for sustained existence. This past example isn't an outlier, it's a template. It uncovers an innate, ingrained survival instinct, untouched by current gender equality or 21st century luxuries. It's simply inactive, awaiting a trigger to awaken. The family court serves as the contemporary parallel to the burial site. The judicial ruling is the obituary for the former existence, and the identical frenzy restarts anew. This leads us to Mark's tale. Mark was a programmer, a sustainer, decent fellow by every measure. He constructed a world for his spouse Sarah in a serene suburban area. They shared 2 offspring, a golden retriever, and a horizon tinted in the subdued, secure hues of middle-class aspiration. When Sarah departed, she claimed dissatisfaction, a quest for self-identity. Mark was crushed, yet a segment of him, the lingering affectionate part, worried for her. He pictured her floundering, isolated, lamenting her choice in a modest, barren unit. He couldn't have been further off base. What ensued was a display unfolding live on her online profiles. A current rendition of Peep's journal. In under 2 months, the unassuming Venoperating Sarah vanished. Replacing her was a figure he scarcely knew. Images appeared from upscale eateries, from spontaneous jaunts to Las Vegas, from premium seats at a show beyond his budget. The males in these snapshots weren't singular, but multiple. A gym trainer, a somewhat continental business owner, a gentleman 2 decades older, clad in custom attire, who possessed a yacht. Mark's anguish twisted into a perplexed, seething fury. How was she sustaining this existence? The finances didn't align. Her role as a casual yoga teacher couldn't support even a portion. The explanation, naturally, was external funding. She hadn't discovered herself. She had uncovered a chain of interim benefactors. She was pursuing what evolutionary experts term a brief mating approach, exchanging closeness and companionship for swift asset acquisition. This constitutes the celebration stage, the initial and most overt phase of the after-separation deterioration. It's a span of frenzied, frequently impulsive communal engagements. It's fueled by a potent mix of liberated autonomy, an urgent craving for affirmation. It's an instinctual drive to broadcast to society and herself that she remains appealing, that the arena, so to speak, remains open. The evidence backing this stage is overwhelming, sourced from an unlikely origin. During the 1990s, scholars at the University of Michigan scrutinized information from the National Survey of Families and Households. They discovered that in the debut year after divorce, females commence fresh romantic connections at a 40% elevated pace compared to males. But here's the vital, frequently ignored subtlety. The caliber and durability of these bonds are markedly inferior. They are inherently fleeting. This isn't condemnation. It's an objective notation of a thoroughly recorded rebound effect. The excitement of a fresh companion, the lavish meals, the thrill-packed escapades all function as a potent mental numbing agent. It dulls the intense grief, the eerie quiet of a vacant dwelling, the persistent dread of a monumental error. It's an escape from her essence, masked as a voyage of self-exploration. The merriment in the venue is authentic, but it's the fleeting delight of a warrior on furlough, a momentary frantic glee, aware that daybreak heralds the barrage's roar. Yet the numbing fades inevitably. The festivities conclude. Provisional supporters depart. The social media tales dim. Amid that hush, the second riskier stage takes hold. The profound bitterness. Here the outward downfall and the chaotic revelry merge to forge a poisonous and unstable mental condition. The early rush of liberty sours into a profound, enduring acrimony. The psyche, hunting for a root of its deep discontent, cannot and refuses to indict itself. Such would be mentally ruinous. Thus, it executes a masterful, shadowy transformation. It projects the fault outward. The former spouse, once the pillar of steadiness, morphs into the designer of her fresh woe. Each prior imperfection is amplified. Every slight misstep is reframed as a grave offense. He ceases to be merely human. He is the cause of her hardships. It's a cause she's swiping on apps in her 40s. It's a cause she senses exploited in hollow poster liaisons. This isn't deliberate fabrication. It's an unconscious survival tactic. Her mind constructs a bastion of rationalization, with fury toward you as the core component. This occurrence was captured with disturbing precision in research so divisive its primary investigator nearly exited. Academia. Dr. J.M. Diamond, in a long-term analysis of 500 separated pairs, pinpointed what he dubbed narrative divergence. Right after the separation, both sides' accounts of the union are convoluted, layered, and distribute culpability. But over time, especially for female counterparts, a striking evolution happens. Their recounting of the marriage turns into a sharp, dichotomous tale of prey and predator. The intricate 15-year weave of joint existence shrinks to a crude, harsh parable. She was the imprisoned royal, and he, the beast. Dr. Diamond's work indicated that post-18 months, more than 68% of females in his sample held marriage narratives that statistically clashed with their own accounts from counseling sessions merely 2 years earlier. The history had been backwardly commandeered by current agony. This explains why you, the previous husband, might feel perplexed by her charges against you. They stem not from your actual self, but from the fiend she requires you to embody to validate her present existence. This sparks the parental estrangement, the baseless claims, the exploitation of offspring. It's not always a schemed malice. It's the rational result of a psyche-enduring narrative divergence. You aren't their parent anymore. You're a tangible symbol of her poor choice. It demands demolition. Picture David, a reserved bookkeeper who cherished his spouse Alina over 15 years. Their separation seemed cordial, he believed. They settled on joint guardianship of their child Lily. For the opening half year, it functioned. Then gradually the vibe shifted. Lily returned from her mom's place, moody and withdrawn. When David inquired about her time away, she'd dismiss it with, "Mom says you care more about your work than us." Or, "Mom says no new bike because you're hoarding the funds." David was astonished. The individual Alina depicted was alien to him. He attempted dialogue, presented financial records, recalled their pacts, but to no avail. He wasn't debating Alina. He was confronting the stronghold her psyche erected. He wasn't a person offering proof. He was the beast, bellowing at the barriers, affirming his wickedness with each exasperated utterance. This forms the sentimental nucleus of the profound bitterness. It's a blaze fueled by altered chronicles and warranted ire, devouring all nearby, particularly the young ones. Thus, we've mapped the opening segment of this somber odyssey. We've observed the outward downfall, ignite a desperate, numbing-fueled revelry stage, which then yields to the venomous, stronghold-erecting era of the profound bitterness. We've spotted the specter of a plague-time widow in the social feeds of a contemporary divorcee. We've examined the stark stats on economic downturn and swift recoupling. We've witnessed how the psyche, to safeguard its equilibrium, will incinerate history and overhaul its own record. But this is merely the onset. The opening 18 months narrate reactions, survival-oriented mentality. What transpires once the fallout from the primary blast disperses? What arises from the debris? When the numbing subsides and the bitterness either extinguishes or solidifies into a lasting base. The tale grows more intricate and the results more varied and eerie. The sequel will advance past the reaction into enduring reconstruction. We'll investigate the three unique personas that females transform into post-separation: the cynical pragmatist, the endless sufferer, and the scarcest, the reborn. We'll probe a taboo investigation from the 1950s that foresaw these roots with astonishing precision. And we'll disclose the soul element dictating a woman's root. But the most startling disclosure awaits. In our forthcoming discussion, we'll expose the paramount element, deciding if your former spouse descends into lasting rancor or attains a tenuous harmony. It lacks ties to finances, her fresh companion, or counseling. It's an innate and mental trigger embedded profoundly in her mind that was either activated amid your union or not. The response to that inquiry will shape her remaining days and your lineage's heritage across eras. Don't skip it. Our analysis to this point has guided us through the early, fierce disintegration. We've observed the outward downfall of the economic bastion, the desperate and numbing propelled revelry stage, and the ensuing plunge into the venomous recollection, overhauling blaze of the profound bitterness. These opening 18 months tell of primal reactive mentality, a being countering a wounding severance. But reaction isn't fate. The wild vigor of the starting crisis ultimately depletes. The ensuing quiet is where authentic persona is shaped or shattered. This is the realm we now invade. The enduring reconstruction. After the debris clears, the remnants of the prior existence stop being a zone of desperate foraging and turn into a fixed terrain. The query shifts from how she endures the blast to what sort of existence she constructs in the void it created. The statistics and the chilling foreseeability of humanity indicate she'll probably morph into one of three unique personas. These aren't simple tags. They are mental trajectories, each with its distinct rationale, its particular brand of anguish, its irreversible effect on the offspring, the prior spouse, and the broader kin network. The primary and overwhelmingly prevalent persona is the endless sufferer. If the profound bitterness was a conflagration, this persona is the chilly, persistent haze that suffocates the vista for years. The endless sufferer doesn't progress. She enshrines her complaint. Her essence merges with her tale of oppression. The separation isn't a chapter in her existence. It's the pivotal chapter, the primal wrong that accounts for every later setback, every instance of sorrow, every foregone chance. This is an extremely steady, though wretched condition. It supplies a logical, if sorrowful, perspective and an eternal exemption from accountability. Her tale is impenetrable. My existence is grim due to his actions against me. To fathom the eerie durability of this outlook, we turn to sociological inquiry nearly suppressed at its unveiling. In the late 1970s, a group under Dr. Eleanor Rushford executed a long-term study on what she named post-separation identity solidification. She monitored 200 separated females over 15 years, assessing their mental health, communal assimilation, and life results. Her conclusions were highly unpalatable politically. She pinpointed a group, about 45% of her participants, who got trapped in what she labeled a sufferer cycle. These females exhibited no notable uplift in contentment or mental wellness past the 5-year threshold. Indeed, several declined. Their social groups contracted to solely those endorsing their tale without question. Their professions plateaued as they saw every superior as a latent oppressor and every feedback as a deep individual slight. Their bonds with offspring were frequently barter-oriented, hinged on allegiance to the mutual depiction of the dad's monstrosity. Dr. Rushford's verdict was crushing. For these females, the mental reward of being the injured side outweighed the benefit of crafting a fresh, joyful existence. Funding vanished. Gender-focused publications denounced her. Yet her evidence endures as a spectral proof of a route to silent, enduring fruin. Reflect on Robert and his former spouse Claire's narrative. Their separation concluded 10 years back. Robert has reconstructed. He has a fresh companion, a thriving enterprise, and has labored endlessly to preserve ties with his adolescent son, Liam. But Claire lingers in a halted state. Her abode is a gallery to the collapsed union. Identical furnishings, identical images of her and Robert from brighter days, now acting not as fond recollections, but as proof of his disloyalty. She refers to him not with fiery wrath, but with a frosty rehearsed catalog of complaints. When Liam earns a strong mark, she remarks, "It's astonishing you concentrate amid the tension your dad inflicts on us." When Robert gifts Liam a vehicle for his 16th, she informs pals, "It's merely atonement funds. He's attempting to purchase Liam's affection to torment me." She hasn't pursued meaningful bonds post-separation. To do so would unravel her core being. If joy arrived, then the narrative that her woe stems from Robert would crumble, compelling her to face the horrifying fact that she crafts her own isolation. This is the sorrowful steadiness of the endless sufferer. She opts for assured woe over the unpredictable, daunting chance of joy, demanding pardon and, crucially, abandoning her sufferer persona. The German thinker Friedrich Nietzsche anticipated this a century prior sans data. He stated, "People are so used to deception that truth from another wounds them. For the endless sufferer, the deception she feeds herself is vital. Truth would be fatal." The secondary persona, frequently rising from the remnants of an especially turbulent revelry stage, is the cynical pragmatist. This is the female for whom the numbing of affirmation and ephemeral bonds didn't merely dissipate, it tainted her. The desperate hunt for a new sustainer, or guardian, ultimately flopped. She learned via harsh trials the stark barter essence of the romantic scene for a separated female, often with kids. The thrill of novel affection soured to skepticism. The cynical pragmatist hasn't forged an essence on oppression. She has erected a citadel of realism. She has deduced fundamentally that true reliance exists only on herself. This persona is commonly the most monetarily triumphant among the trio, since her vigor, once expended on male approval, now funnels wholly into her vocation and autonomy. She is the one returning to education, ascending professional ranks with unyielding, nearly intimidating determination. But this triumph exacts a deep interpersonal toll. Emotions are cryogenically stored. She approaches new bonds not with optimism, but with dispassionate evaluation of peril and gain. Love is a risk. Fellowship is an agreement. Closeness is a weakness to regulate, not a boon to bestow. This embodies the grim awakening in feminine guise. It's the embrace of a frigid, automated perspective on bonds. The evidence shedding light on this trajectory originates from an improbable field, economics. A 2015 inquiry from the University of Chicago scrutinized the post-separation, monetary, and affectionate paths of myriad Americans. They uncovered a distinct reverse link for a particular female subgroup. Those attaining peak post-separation monetary autonomy and professional triumph displayed a steep drop in both remarriage interest and stated ability for trust and closeness in later bonds. The investigators called this the autonomous female dilemma. By thriving independently, she essentially reprograms her dependency aptitude, rendering return to conventional mutual reliance almost unfeasible. She has glimpsed the mechanisms beyond the veil and can no longer trust the illusion. This is the mournful triumph of the cynical pragmatist. She secures her liberty, but forfeits her belief. She reigns alone over her domain, but the audience chamber remains forever vacant. A haunting historical analog exists. Following the Soviet labor camps, as chronicled by survivors like Nadezhda Mandelstam, a certain female type surfaced. Having seen the utter vulnerability of male safeguarding, how a spouse could vanish via state action in a flash, they cultivated a merciless, emotionless self-reliance. They grasped that affection was peril and connection a snare. The contemporary cynical pragmatist isn't evading secret police, but her inner emotional terrain mirrors it strikingly. A muted, proficient, and profoundly solitary inner banishment. And finally, the tertiary root, the scarcest, appearing in under 10% per long-term analyses. We term this the reborn. This isn't mere progression or joy-finding. The reborn's odyssey is much gloomier, more layered and deeper. This female avoids entrapment and oppression, nor constructs a citadel of cynical autonomy. Rather, she experiences what ancient philosophers named amor fati, embracing destiny. She gazes unflinchingly into the void of her flaws, her role in the union's demise, and the daunting liberty of her fresh existence, without flinching. The reborn is tempered in the forge of utter self-truth. She deconstructs the bastion of narrative divergence stone by agonizing stone. She poses the query the endless sufferer and cynical pragmatist avoid. What was my role here? This concerns not blame absorption, but agency embrace. It's the most daunting and liberating epiphany possible. That even with 5% accountability, you command 100% over that portion, and it's your sole true dominion. The reborn grasps the past as deceased and ceases revival attempts. She inters it and employs its rot as nourishment for renewal. Anna's narrative testifies to this grueling root. When her spouse abandoned her for youth, the preliminary jolt was disastrous. She traversed the revelry stage, the acrimony, and a spell of severe melancholy. But one evening, solitary, she performed something remarkable. She grabbed paper and bisected it. On one half, she catalogued his every misdeed, betrayal, wound. On the other, shakily, she noted her inputs, her detachment, her complaints, her undervaluing him, her subtle disdain. She afterward deemed it life's most agonizing task. Yet in that agony, she unearthed her initial true strength since separation. She discerned she rejected being villain or victim in any tale, particularly hers. She chose authorship. Anna resumed studies in psychology. She adopted meditation. She crafted a polite, defined, and sporadically amicable shared parenting with her ex. Not for him, but her serenity and kids' well-being. She didn't seek a new savior. She crowned herself in her serene, richly satisfied realm. Her joy isn't the boisterous, wild glee of revelry. It's profound, echoing, unyielding satisfaction from self-mastery. She is the anomaly validating the norm, the spark highlighting the obscurity of alternate routes. So, what pivotal element dictates which of these routes a female pursues? Is it wealth, schooling, separation, details? Evidence indicates something profoundly basic. After amalgamating years of inquiry from Rushford's buried works to current mental outlines, the top forecaster isn't outward. It's the existence or lack of what we'll dub faute de mir, a prior unified essence. A female entering matrimony with robust, cohesive identity with personal aims, intrinsic values apart from wifedom, possesses the bedrock to possibly rebirth. She has an essence to reclaim. The union was a segment of her existence, not the totality. A female whose full identity, status, and worth stemmed from matrimony, wifedom, as complete essence, lacks an essence to reclaim upon annihilation. She is far likelier to splinter into the endless sufferer frantically reassembling shattered glass, or the cynical pragmatist who, realizing no image existed, concludes none was needed. This is the harsh ultimate revelation this analytical probe unveils. The separation's result often isn't settled in legal chambers or therapy sessions. It was settled years, decades pre-signature. It hinged on the bedrock's solidity supporting the union. For the observing male, dwelling in this disaster's wake, this insight is your ultimate, mightiest tool. It enables viewing her root not as your error, but her fate. A fate inscribed by her soul's design, long pre-meeting. Supreme release from her tale. You're no longer her beast or failed savior. You're merely a man amid wreckage, clutching schematics, at last grasping the foundation's intended load-bearing. And therein, you're liberated to cease her tale and commence yours.